What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC Nashville. We have Corey Sandhagen going against Rob Font.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another betting breakdown video this week, breaking down UFC Nashville, a card that I think is going to be very exciting from top to bottom. We got 12 fights on the card. I'm looking forward to 11 of them. The one I'm not looking forward is to that terrible Tanner Boser Alexa Kamer fight, which is just going to be a terrible fight. But yeah, all 11 other fights I think are going to be very fun. I think, Nashville's in for a fun night of fights, and the folks at home are as well. So really looking forward to this one. I have 12 bets that we will talk about before we get into. If you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. That is always much appreciated. Coming off of the biggest night of my life in UFC 291, hit a lot of bets. Went kind of crazy though. Had a bet on pretty much every single fight. Is not the case this time around. Don't want to say it's a sketchy card. I think there's a lot of spots that are sticking out, but there are a few sketchy fights that I want to just tread very lightly on or just stay away from as a whole. So I'm not going crazy this week for UFC Nashville, but there are some spots that do stick out, and we will talk about all of those. I do want to get into the contest winner for last week. I asked you guys to put in your best plus money prop, and it looks like everybody got it wrong, besides one guy. And shout out to Corey Cleaver. He had Kevin Holland by sub at plus 500. Corey, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram with your PayPal or Cash App. I will get you your winnings there. 90% of people put like Tony Ferguson props, which did not really work out. But yeah, I'll be looking forward to doing some contests in the future. But yeah, Corey was pretty much the only person that got it right and hit it at plus 500. So shout out to you, Corey. Appreciate you for participating, everybody. And yeah, I say we get right into it. Let's talk some UFC Nashville. We're going to kick it off with the first fight on the card. Asu Amabayev going against Ode Osborne. We have Amabayev sitting around minus 190, Osborne plus 160. Yeah, I was going to stay away from this fight, and then there were a couple props that did catch my eye. The first one being Amabayev inside the distance, plus 240. I have a half a unit on that, and then I also put a half a unit on the fight to ends by submission at plus 260. The reason being is I think the most likely outcome here is an Amabayev submission, right? Like Ode Osborne, he's a guy that is huge for the division. He slows down as the fight goes on, and he's been finishing 4 of his 5 losses. So I expect Amabayev, who is very smart, he's a great wrestler, great grappler. He's position over submission, but, I expect Ode Osborne, as this fight goes on, I expect him to, start slowing down, start making mistakes, and at that point, I think Amabayev is going to capitalize and find a late finish here, second, third round. I do think Ode Osborne is going to be dangerous early on, though. Ode Osborne does have power, and he does have a sneaky submission game as well. You see outside of the UFC, Ode Osborne, in a lot of his fights, he's getting taken down and finding something off his back. I don't think that's the case here, but I think the fight ends by sub does cover some avenues in this one, and it's plus 260. So 2 bets on this one. Amabayev inside the distance, plus 240. That was too good for me to pass up. And then also the fight ends by submission, half a unit, plus 260. That's what I'm kicking off the card with. Next, we got Sean Woodson going against Dennis Bazooka. Yeah, nothing sticking out here. Apparently, Sean Woodson did open up as an underdog. Would have obviously loved that. Minus 175, it seems about right to me. It does seem like a pretty tough matchup for Bazooka to take on short notice here. Bazooka is going to be just so undersized. Sean Woodson's going to have about a 10-inch reach advantage. It's something crazy, like 8 or 9 inches of reach for Sean Woodson. I do expect Sean Woodson to stuff the takedowns here, keep it at range, and just pick apart Bazooka across 15 minutes. But, laying chalk on Sean Woodson is not really something I want to do after the just atrocious performance he had in his last fight against Luis Saldana. So the pick Sean Woodson, but don't really see any way of attacking this fight from a betting perspective. Next, we have Jake Hadley going against Cody Durden. And I do like the Hadley side here. So there's a couple fights on this card where it's like, if this fight goes the distance, I think it's probably because, Cody Durden's cardio was able to hold up, his durability was able to hold up. But if there is a finish in this fight, I do think it's on the Hadley side, and that's kind of where I'm leaning. I just think Cody Durden, although he's a very popular underdog this week, he does have some things going against him. He's coming in here on short notice, which I don't like. We have seen him slow down in the past. We have seen him get submitted in the past as well. And Jake Hadley is a guy that puts it on you from the jump. He pressures on the feet, he throws a lot of volume, he mixes it up to the body, and I think at some point Durden is going to start getting tired. and at some point, Durden is going to make a mistake on the mat, and if you make a mistake on the mat, we saw what happened in the Candelario fight, you are getting submitted. So I think a Jake Hadley finish is very much in play. I do lean submission, but I could also see like a body shot knockout as well. This guy, Jake Hadley, attacks the body very well. So I like Jake Hadley here, but more specifically, I like him inside the distance. I'm on it for 1 unit at plus 130 there. Moving on, we got Billy Quarantillo going against Damon Jackson. I'm on some violence here as well. It's a Billy Quarantillo fight. You know, Billy Quarantillo is a finisher. This guy puts it on you from the jump. He pressures you. He breaks you, and I see that happening here in this matchup. Damon Jackson, 5 losses, all 5 of them coming inside the distance. 4 by knockout, 1 by sub. I question the chin of Damon Jackson, and if this fight does get extended, which I do think it does, you know, Billy Q is a guy that just puts it on you. He puts out so much volume that guys just can't keep up, and I don't expect Damon Jackson's chin to take some of these big shots from Billy Quarantillo. So I think a Billy Quarantillo's late second, third round finish is very much in play. But I also think Damon Jackson is super dangerous as well. Like, Damon Jackson has like 15, 16 subs on his record. So if Damon Jackson gets down Billy Quarantillo early, maybe he does, you know, get Billy Quarantillo out of there. So I think the fight doesn't go. The under covers both sides here. I'm on the fight doesn't go. Beats him Lyman with this one, 1.5 units, minus 145. Sitting around minus 170, I think that's a good look. And also the under 2.5, I think, is a solid look as well. But I would like those extra 2.5 minutes because this is a Billy Quarantillo fight. Moving on, we got Jeremiah Wells going against Carlston Harris, another fight where I do expect some violence here. I think this is going to be an absolute car crash. I think there's just finishing opportunities on both sides here. Both guys have a ton of power. You know, Jeremiah Wells hits like a truck. Carlston Harris, you know, very unorthodox style of striking, but when he lands, he's hurting guys, he's putting guys out, right? And then on top of that, both guys have no striking defense at all. I mean, both these guys, like Wells, a 40% striking defense on paper, Carlston Harris not much better at 50%. So not only are these guys dangerous, you know, offensively, defensively, they leave a lot to be desired. So I think a knockout is very much on the table here with how hard these guys hit and how terrible these guys defend punches. You know, they eat punches with their face, and that's just a recipe for disaster here. So I feel like both guys can knock each other out. On top of that, Wells, black belt in BJJ, really good grappler, as is Carlston Harris, a very, very good grappler. So I feel like there's just going to be finishing opportunities, whether this fight is on the feet, whether this fight hits the mat. I feel like at some point, at every point in this fight, you know, someone is going to be in danger. So I like the, apparently they set the over-under at 2.5. I actually like the under 1.5. And it is plus money. I took a 1 unit shot on the under 1.5 at plus 100. It actually got better after I bet it. It went to plus 115. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I see like a plus 105 towards that under. I think if there's a finish, it comes early. Like 4 of these guys, 6 UFC fights have finished under 1.5 rounds. And then what I also did was I put a unit on the fight won't start round 3, and they were hanging in at minus 135. So this fight is like heavily favored to end inside the distance, but I kind of feel like if there's a finish, it is early on in this fight. Like if this gets extended, I could see it going the distance. So I would rather attack the under 1.5 or the fight won't start round 3 rather than laying a ton of chalk on the fight doesn't go in the under 2.5. So I'm on the fight won't start round 3 for a unit minus 135, and then on the under 1.5 for a unit plus 100 there, hoping to get a first round finish in this one. Moving on, we got Kyler Phillips going against Jaime Barcelos. Yeah, this is probably the 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week for me. This is the fight where, I don't know, it kind of stressed me out all week. And, you know, last week there was a fight that stressed me out all week, and it was the Blachowicz-Pereira fight. And I ended up passing on that one, and it ended up paying off. And I think that's what I'm going to do here. Because, I mean, if Barcelos was in his prime, like if this fight was a couple years ago, I'd be max betting Barcelos at plus 175. The fact of the matter is he has clearly slowed down in his career. He is clearly on a decline. He has taken this fight on short notice. He didn't look the best at weigh-ins. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pass and watch this one. I think Barcelos is a very, very live dog, but I could see this just going very poorly in a bunch of different ways. So I'm going to pick Barcelos for the upset. But with all things considered, I just don't want to put any money on this matchup. And again, it's really stressed me out all week, and probably not even worth it at this point. And Phillips is the younger guy. Phillips coming off of a PED suspension. Like, there's red flags just all over this fight. And typically, just I don't want anything to do with it. So I'm going to pass on this one. Next, we got Ignacio Bahamondes going against Ludovic Klein. Yeah, I'm taking a shot on a big prop here. It's going to be the fight ends by submission. I got it at plus 450. I have a quarter unit on it. Very small play that I think has some upside. It's actually plus 490 on FanDuel Sportsbook, so that's kind of frustrating. I got the worst number, but yeah, I think there's sneaky submission upside really from both sides. Ludovic Klein has actually finished half of his finishes by submission, and I expect him to get this fight down to the mat. Like, I don't expect Ludovic Klein to get pieced apart for 15 minutes and just stand there and take it like Trey Ogden did for some reason. I expect Ludovic Klein to implement some wrestling. And when he does, I mean, if he gets Bahamondes down, we've seen Bahamondes sub twice. But on the flip side, we've seen Bahamondes get a submission against Rong Zhu, where Bahamondes was able to snatch up the neck. And I could see that happening here. We saw Nate Landwehr submit Ludovic Klein when he was very tired. That could very much be in play here. Klein's been submitted twice in his career as well. So, yeah, I mean, in this fight, I do expect it primarily to play out at distance, but, I do expect Klein to go for takedowns at some point in this fight, and if he does get tired, get sloppy, on a sloppy shot, I mean, I think Bahamondes could snatch up a neck here. So, small shot, I do expect it to hit more often than not, probably not, but I do think there's going to be some opportunities here at plus 450, and like I said, it's even plus 490, quarter unit small play, and I was also looking at maybe sprinkling Bahamondes by sub, or Bahamondes sub 2, sub 3, but those prices are terrible. I mean, Bahamondes by sub is like plus 475, and the sub 2, sub 3 is not much better. So it kind of really makes you think, right? Like, I think those are long shots, but they're not really being priced as long shots. So taking the fight ends by sub, we'll see what happens. Next, we have Tanner Boser going against Alexa Kamer. Big pass here. I mean, it's a dogger pass. I mean, if you're looking for a live dog, I think it's Kamer. But there's some question marks. I mean, he's taken 2 years off. But with those 2 years off, has he made improvements? I mean, I hope so. If not, I think it's a close fight. If he has made improvements, I think it's a very winnable fight for him, but it's a fight I just want nothing to do with. I'm actually shocked it's on the main card. I think they should take this fight and switch it with the Billy Q fight, because there's no way the Billy Q fight should be on the prelims. It's just ridiculous, and, this is the worst fight on the card by a mile, a fight that I don't want anything to do with. Kamer was like plus 150, plus 160 at one point. I probably would have pulled the trigger here, but but plus 120 now, I mean, I just don't have much interest in this fight. So it's a big pass from a betting perspective, and quite frankly, from a fan perspective as well. I will not be probably watching this fight. Not a big Boser fan or Kamer fan, my goodness. We can move on. Diego Lopez going against Gavin Tucker. Yeah, this is a lot like the Durden Hadley fight, where one guy is going to be the minute winner and Gavin Tucker. Like, Gavin Tucker is going to be the better striker. He's going to be the better wrestler. Gavin Tucker can win minutes in the striking. He can win minutes on top. And that's why, Gavin Tucker is a popular dog this week, and I get it. And I was even looking at, Gavin Tucker myself, but, after, getting into it a little bit, I mean, Gavin Tucker, he's taken a 2-year layoff after just getting brutally knocked out by Dan Ige. That was the only time he's been knocked out, but we have seen him drop before as well. I question the durability at this point for Gavin Tucker. He's 37 years old now at featherweight, and he's going against a young killer in Diego Lopez, who is just going to be dangerous wherever the fight goes. On the feet, I think, although Lopez is not the most technical striker in the world, he does pack power, and then we saw what this guy can do on the mat. So I just think Diego Lopez is going to have a lot of opportunities. If this fight goes 15, I think Gavin Tucker probably wins. I think Gavin Tucker probably mixes in the takedowns, wins minutes on top, and that probably meant that, Diego Lopez was not able to find the sub. But I think there's going to be so many opportunities here for Lopez to get either a submission off his back. If he's able to take the back of Gavin Tucker, even better. Gavin Tucker gives up his back all the time. And then, like I said, I think a knockout is in play as well for Lopez. So what I did was I did take a shot on Lopez inside the distance, 1 unit plus 130. I think there's going to be so many opportunities throughout this fight for him to get that finish there. Moving on, we got Kennedy and Nzechukwu going against Dustin Jacoby, and nothing really sticking out here. I did take 2 very small shots on some Hail Mary props here. The first one is Kennedy and Nzechukwu wins by submission round 2, 0.15 units at plus 3,200, and then Kennedy and Nzechukwu wins in round 3 submission, 0.10 units plus 4,900, just because maybe I'm a little bit salty because last time he got a second round sub against Devin Clark, and I remember looking at the round 2 sub, and it was like, it opened up as something crazy, like plus 10,000. And I didn't bet it for some reason, which is just, it still haunts me till this day. But Kennedy has improved that grappling. I mean, he's been working on it for a while. I remember he got his white belt at this point like a couple years ago. Like, that's something he's really been putting an emphasis on. We saw him working on the wrestling a lot. We saw him implement that wrestling against Carl Roberson. I just don't expect Kenny to go out there and kickbox with Dustin Jacoby for 3 rounds. If he does that, Jacoby's probably going to win. But if Kennedy's able to mix in the wrestling here, I could potentially see a submission at some point in this fight. I think a decision's most likely either way. But at these numbers, I had to take some small shots. So just a quarter unit total on the second and third round submission props sprinkled, 0.15 on the round 2 sub, and then 0.10 on the round 3 sub. Moving on, we got Tatiana Suarez going against Jessica Andrade. I have 1.5 unit bet on Suarez to win inside the distance, -140. That line is still there. I just think I'm a big Jessica Andrade fan. I just think this is a very terrible matchup. She's taken this fight on short notice. I have question marks about Jessica Andrade and kind of where she's at right now in her career. I feel like she's kind of just showing up for a paycheck at this point. And the reason I feel like that is, for one, she showed up on short notice against Erin Blanchfield and just looked terrible. She got taken down. It looked like she quit in that fight. And then another reason I think she's showing up for a paycheck is because who the heck takes a Tatiana Suarez fight, first off, and then who the heck takes a Tatiana Suarez fight on short notice? I mean, it just makes no sense. Terrible career move for Jessica Andrade to go out there and fight Tatiana Suarez, not only in general, which is a terrible matchup in general, but on short notice. So I think Suarez takes her down, and that's probably it. I think Andrade is going to look for the door. Andrade has been finished 8 times. We saw Erin Blanchfield just make it look so easy. I think one takedown, and it's probably over shortly after. The fight doesn't go. I mean, it's kind of wild seeing a fight doesn't go in a strawweight fight at -250, but I think this fight does finish more often than not. If you're looking for a parlay piece that is extremely terribly priced but probably hits, I mean, that probably hits there for the fight doesn't go. Because if Andrade does stuff the takedowns, she probably does knock out Suarez, but I just struggle to see Andrade stuffing the takedowns. So give me Suarez inside the distance. That's kind of how I'm attacking it. Not my favorite play in the world, because laying -140 on a strawweight to finish a fight is kind of ridiculous. But I think there is an exception here, just because of how good of a matchup this is for Tatiana Suarez. And then moving on, we got Corey Sandhagen going against Rob Font. Yeah, I like Sandhagen here quite a bit. I wish I would have looked into this fight sooner. I would have had a max bet on Corey Sandhagen around -205. He's now -350. I still think he's a solid parlay piece. I hate this matchup for Rob Font. I'm not really sure why he took this fight on short notice. I'm glad he saved the fight, but my goodness, just a rough matchup for one Rob Font, who's just taken so much damage throughout his career in those 5-round fights against Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera. I think Sandhagen styles on Rob Font here. I think he does whatever he wants, and I think he's the first person to knock out Rob Font. I have 1.5 units on Corey Sandhagen inside the distance at +130. That line is currently still there. I think he finishes Rob Font here. I think he can finish him in a multitude of ways. I think he can land a flying knee. I think he can land a head kick. I think there could be a doctor stoppage, a cut stoppage. Like, Rob Font does not wear damage well these days, and even at the weigh-ins, I mean, it looks like somebody already beat up Rob Font, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but this guy's not wearing damage well, obviously. Like, I could see a doctor stoppage. I could see just Sandhagen beating this guy up so bad that the ref's forced to step in. And that Marlon Vera fight probably could have been stopped on several occasions. Like, in the 5th round, like, Marlon Vera landed a head kick, and it was just, I mean, that fight could have been stopped. So, Rob Font is very tough, but I think he's going to get hit in the face a lot, and I'm not sure at this point he's able to take some of these shots. Like, some of those shots that Aldo and Vera were landing looked like they were barely landing, and Rob Font was doing the chicken dance all over the cage. So, and on top of that, if this fight hits the mat, Sandhagen does have very good BJJ. So I think a sub could even be in play. So, I like Sandhagen here quite a bit. I think is a great parlay piece. Would have max bet him had I got the -200 or whatever, but give me Sandhagen inside the distance here, 1.5 units at +130. Those are the bets for UFC Nashville. I'll be going live tomorrow for some best bet. I'll be going live 2 hours prior to when the prelims start. The prelims do start at 6 o'clock Eastern time, so I'll be going live for best bet at 4 o'clock Eastern time. I got me, Narco Cop, and Uncle Weezy, so we got a great show for you guys for some best bet. Don't forget to leave a like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, be on the lookout for Dana White Contender Series content. I'll be getting out a preview for everybody on YouTube. Just breaking down all 5 fights for Contender Series, and then on my website, I will be getting out a betting breakdown video, kind of like this style, like this, with all the odds. That'll be on my website, coming out like Tuesday afternoons for everybody, and then I'll be doing some best bet, just extra stuff on the website. If you want to check that out, check it out, dfsbythenumbers.com. But yeah, looking forward to some Dana White's Contender Series. a lot more work, but gonna get after it here. So best of luck, guys, for UFC Nashville. We'll talk to you soon. See you later.